hours ago, all eyes turned toward the city of Atlanta as Hollywood descended for the world premiere of Gone with the Wind. For the past week, Atlanta has had Gone with the Wind fever once again, and it has been a week to remember.
That's right, Liz. The week-long festivities began here at Stately Oaks Plantation, just outside Atlanta. It's one of the few plantations to have survived the Civil War, and it survived quite nicely. 50 years ago, when Gone with the Wind premiered, Stately Oaks was celebrating its 100th birthday. For the week's kickoff festivities, the plantation was returned to its antebellum charm, complete with holiday tree, southern bells, and Scarlett O'Hara, or at least someone who looked just like her most of the time. Meanwhile, back in Atlanta at the Turner store, the merchandising of Gone with the Wind was picking up speed.
I started liking Gone with the Wind when I started teaching it at the novel in high school, and I've collected stuff over the years, got about 150 items.
Fans, or goners, as they're sometimes called, could choose just about any souvenir that caught their eye. If not Scarlett's gown, then what about the official Gone with the Wind jacket? But it was more than just souvenirs that attracted people to Atlanta. It was a love of the movie itself.
Well, I've always grown up with it. My mother took me to the first showing, well, not the first showing, but my first showing at the Fox Theater, and it's just, I don't know, it just brings back the old South and the way that the plantations used to be, and I just love it.
And some people came to town to do more than just watch the movie.
Well, personally, it's fascinating to me because my husband is a finalist in the Rhett Butler Lookalike Contest here in Atlanta.
This is the contest she's talking about. Rhett and Scarlett lookalikes from across the country came to Atlanta, each hoping to be crowned the official Rhett and Scarlett. Along with the honor comes a one-year contract to promote a new Gone with the Wind fragrance. Judges, including our own Liz Wickersham, rated the contestants on physical similarity and acting ability. When the votes were counted, Robert Knoll and Emily Shepman were selected. It's safe to say that both have more than a passing familiarity with the movie.
I've seen it in its entirety about 2 times. I've seen the scene that I did about 100 times.
And these people also know a thing or two about Gone with the Wind. On Wednesday night, 10 surviving cast members came together for a special Gone with the Wind cast party. Even though it's been 50 years, Butterfly McQueen still has very special memories of film star Clark Gable.
Oh, he was a dear man. And sometimes with when they mention Selznick, Margaret Mitchell, and now sometimes Gable, it makes one a little tearful. Because they were such high-class ladies and gentlemen, all of them. I think that's why the movie's lasting so long.
She may be right. Gone with the Wind seems to be every bit as popular today as it was 50 years ago. The fans know why.
To me, it's the story of life. It's the struggles, it's the beauty, the joy, it's the heartbreak and the sorrow. It's survival.
I'm Chuck Roberts for Good News.
When Good News returns, we'll put on hoop skirts and tight breeches for the Gone with the Wind ball and find out if Rhett and Scarlett will meet again.
Good News is brought to you by...
To this moment, if Atlanta, which is the final judge, approves our efforts, these labors will not have been in vain.
It was a grand night back in 1939 when Lowe's Grand Theater hosted the most anxiously awaited premiere of all time.
They just can't get enough of the Gables, and Clark is his usual model.
This week's recreation took place here at the Fox Theater, an opulent movie palace of the 30s that provides a perfect blending of the past and the present. And just as Gone with the Wind did in 1939, modern Hollywood is...
So in addition to building lavish sets, producer David O. Selznick employed a number of miniatures and matte paintings to recreate the lost world. For the Burning of Atlanta sequence, a number of outdated sets, including that of the original King Kong, were assembled and torched, creating a spectacle unequaled on the silver screen. But what really set Gone with the Wind apart was the fact that it was being filmed in blazing Technicolor.
That was a rarity. Not a rarity, it was unheard of. But Selznick insisted it had to be in color. It wouldn't have lasted. It's in black and white. It wouldn't be the motion picture it was today. But black and white was the norm. Nobody filmed in color back then.
But Selznick wasn't just making any movie. Margaret Mitchell's novel was an enormous success, and the public was anxious to line up at the box office. Clark Gable had always been the people's choice for the role of Rhett, But choosing the right Scarlett was another matter entirely. For the sake of publicity, Selznick launched a nationwide search for an unknown and began screen testing some of Hollywood's most famous faces. While many contenders fell by the wayside, Paulette Goddard endured an endless number of tests, including this one in which she plays both Scarlett and Mammy.
Oh, catch your husband. You put on the dress. What's my honey gonna wear? That? No, you ain't. You ain't gonna show your bosom for 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
And through it all, Selznick tried to convince himself that Goddard was his Scarlett.
Miss Goddard is a very fine actress, and her screen test proved that she was very, very capable of doing Scarlett, but I don't think it would be quite the classic it is now if it hadn't been made with Vivien Leigh.
When the finished product finally made it to the screen, Vivien Leigh proved to the world that she was the perfect Scarlett, and Gone with the Wind, the perfect movie. But perfection didn't come cheap, even by 1939 standards.
It cost, I would say, $4,300,000. Today, I think it's put at $60 million.
But even with a price tag of $60 million, Gone with the Wind would still be worth it. I'm Karen Duva for Good News.
The making of Gone with the Wind is the ultimate Hollywood legend. And for 50 years, fans have speculated about the possibility of a film sequel. But before a movie can be made, first there must be a story.
Gone with the Wind purists must think Margaret Mitchell is turning over in her grave at the thought of a sequel to the famous tale. But even as we celebrate the movie's 50th anniversary here in Atlanta, up in Virginia, another Southern female author is busy turning out the pages to Gone with the Wind 2.
You go. Where shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
It's the ending that has kept fans wanting more for over half a century. The question of whether Scarlett and Rhett get back together has been hanging in the wind that long. In about 4 months, the tempestuous love-hate affair may finally be resolved. The honor of filling Margaret Mitchell's shoes and writing the sequel to Gone with the Wind was granted to popular romance novelist Alexandra Ripley. In one of her last interviews before hiding out to write the novel, she wasn't giving much away.
If I knew, I wouldn't tell you, because then nobody would buy the book. And also, Olivia de Havilland's not Margaret Mitchell. How does she know? And Rhett would never marry Scarlett unless he thought that there was a possibility that they'd live happily ever after. And marriages have gone bad before and been patched up, and she's a very determined young woman. So my money's riding on her right now, and we'll see what happens.
Ripley admits that Margaret Mitchell's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel is a hard act to follow, and she knows the story will never be hers.
I'm sort of stepmother rather than creator.
But the Charleston native figures if anyone can do it, she's the one. Ripley is one of few Americans successfully writing what she calls big, fat, serious historicals. Her first novel, Charleston, is often compared to Gone with the Wind.
One night you're gonna turn me out.
The world has changed since Margaret Mitchell's time. Ripley says she will handle sex more openly. But not to worry, she also says she's of the 3-dot school. Graphic descriptions of what people do to one another make her snicker. Gone with the Wind fans, no doubt, will be rushing to the newsstands early next year when Life magazine publishes the first excerpts of the sequel.
After all, tomorrow is another day.
One thing we could almost bet on is that Rhett returns to Charleston and Scarlett follows soon after. This is based on the fact that Ripley has been collecting 1873 train timetables from Jonesboro, Georgia, the home of Tara, to Charleston. Well, in any case, all will be revealed in March 1990 when Gone with the Wind 2 will be published. With the Women of the 80s report, I'm Marilyn Ringo for Good News.
The Women of the 80s is brought to you by Toyota.
premiered in Atlanta, a grand ball was held in true antebellum style. This recreation of that ball is one of Atlanta's week-long highlights. But the people who live here say Gone with the Wind is more than a one-night affair.
This is where it all began, Margaret Mitchell's apartment near Peachtree Street in Atlanta, where she wrote Gone with the Wind. And if you listen very closely, you might still be able to hear the clicking of the old word processor as she hammers out her only novel. Well, maybe she used a pen. Whatever she used, that's where she did it. And the effect of that work is still being felt in Atlanta even today. Why, in some cases, it's as if nothing's ever changed.
Are you hinting, Mr. Butler, that the Yankees can lick us?
Hey, how long is that argument going to go on?
I'm saying very plainly that the Yankees are better equipped than we.
Come on, the Yankees hitting is better, but Atlanta's pitching is... Who cares, you know? They're in different leagues. Now, you remember Aunt Pitty Pat and her place. Well, here it is today in downtown Atlanta. Wow. It looks a lot bigger than it does from out there. Well, what do you think about first when you think about the movie? You think of Terra. No, whoa, wait, no, not so fast. Let's hear what Scarlett's plans are first.
I'd give anything to have Terra the way it was before the war.
Would you? Then go ahead and make it that way. Spend whatever you want. Make it as fine a plantation as it ever was.
Well, this is what she came up with. The Terra subdivision, some 20 miles outside Atlanta. Nice, but I doubt anyone is pea green with envy as Scarlett had hoped. Well, let's just go ask the residents what they think about living in Terra.
Oh, Terra's a wonderful, real friendly neighborhood.
Most exciting thing to me is the fact that it's so peaceful.
Most exciting thing that ever happened to me here in Terra was when my microwave caught on fire. And a tornado was being predicted in Lilburn at the same time, and I had to send the kids out in the rain, and it was just a wild situation.
I would say the biggest thing is a couple houses down, some kids put a little pipe bomb in one of the mailboxes and blew it up.
Well, it's just like any other neighborhood, I guess. I mean, nothing special to me.
Where are you from?
From Seattle. Been in Georgia 11 years.
Yankees in Georgia! How did they ever get in?
What a legacy. Terra, land in Georgia. And now that it's finished, what do you think, Scarlett?
I don't want Terra. Plantations don't mean anything when...
Do you mean to tell me, Katie Scarlett O'Hara, that Terra, that land doesn't mean anything to you? Why, land is the only thing in the world worth working for, worth fighting for, worth dying for. Because it's the only thing that lasts.
The only thing? Well, land and Gone with the Wind, that, my dear, will never die. In Atlanta, I'm Paul Ryden for Good News.
In December 1939, a week-long celebration of Gone with the Wind culminated with the actual premiere of the film. 50 years later, the re-premiere capped off the week's festivities much in the same way. We leave you now with a look at the pageantry surrounding both opening nights. From Atlanta, I'm Liz Wickersham.
Good News has been brought to you by Maxwell House Coffee. Always good to the last drop. Anniversary, newly restored, breathtaking edition of Gone with the Wind.